Welcome to The Commerce Order, powered by Kibo, the podcast that brings you closer to the future of commerce. Each episode, we sit down with industry leaders, innovators, and Kibo experts to unpack the latest trends, tackle the toughest challenges, and reveal the strategies shaping retail, e-commerce, and order management. Join us as we explore how technology, culture, and consumer behavior intersect to redefine the shopping experience. I'm your host, Natalia Pavic, Senior Director of Product Marketing at Kibo Commerce, and here is the episode. Just a quick note for our listeners. The opinions of the guests are their own and do not reflect the corporation where they work.
Sonja Keerl is the co-founder of the MACH Alliance and most recently of unamundi.com, a platform for children to explore and understand cultural diversity and build real human connections around the world. She is a globally respected strategist in B2B SaaS with over 20 years of experience helping companies, from global enterprises to breakout scale-ups, translate product vision into commercial outcomes. A sharp strategic thinker, a clear communicator, and a mother of three, Sonya brings both grit and vision to everything she builds. Today, we'll discuss Sonja's unpopular opinions, the origin and evolution of the MACH Alliance, the critical difference between headless and truly composable commerce, and the collision of AI and the composable space. Hope you enjoy the interview.
Hello, welcome to the show. I'm joined today by my co-host, Ty Sweet, and also our very special guests. Sonya, why don't you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Amazing. So I'm Sonja Keerl. By day, I help B2B SaaS companies with their strategy, their messaging, their positioning. And by night and on weekends, I'm creating a network for children to explore different cultures in this world and learn to appreciate and love other countries and the people in them.
And of course, we want to start hot and heavy. What's an unpopular opinion that you have?
I find that the older I get, the more unpopular my opinions get, and the less I care about if they are unpopular or not, I'll say. So I think we tech folks, and I say we, and I include myself in that, have thoroughly fucked up the internet and social media for the next generation. I think we are doing so even more now with the AI we're releasing onto children, and it will harm societies and humanity in the future if we as tech people don't say, yes, we're accountable for this and fix it fast.
Yeah. I mean, but that's you raise a good point, and it's something that, a lot of people, I would say unpopular opinion maybe, but it's definitely an opinion I've heard before, and I know a lot of people would agree with you. But it comes back to this like technology, I always talk about this during the Industrial Revolution, when we came up with new technologies, we thought of ourselves as driving technology forward. But at some point, this flipped, and society thinks of technology as something that happens to us. And I think everything from the participating in technology to building technology to being practitioners and technologists such as we, people forgot that like we can actually change. We can actually change how it's used, what's made, the impact it has. And I think what's positive about the work that you're doing is you're probably impacting that to the positive, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Do you know what is interesting is you will have the lip service. When you have this conversation, you'll have people go like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, gosh, I have a child that is 6 years old. You should see YouTube and what they're doing here and there. And then they go like, oh, but now I need to write this algorithm to sell more shit to people. Yeah. Right. So you have the agreement, but we don't yet have the action to correct. And to your point, we are tech. We can, I think the majority of the people around us, they don't have the means, and to them, technology does actually happen, I think.
I'll pass it over to my co-host Ty to see if you've got an opinion on this as well.
Well, yeah, and really, I think this kind of goes down the path of what you were talking about, the night position that you have in this thing that you've created. And I'm probably going to butcher the name. Is it Unimondo?
You're totally butchering it. It's called Unomundi, UNOMUNDI.com. You can go there, check it out. It's amazing.
Yeah,
We're
it's
just
great.
building now.
And it's fantastic. I've seen a lot of what you're doing on LinkedIn, so
Mm.
I'm following it there. It's worldwide at this point, right? I've seen you've done some things in Africa. Obviously you were at a show in London recently, doing all that. Is building this kind of your kind of contribution back to kind of undoing some of the damage you see that has been done?
Let me be honest about the stage we're at. So we've built a concept prototype of a mobile app where kids in Duolingo style can explore other cultures. And we have Una, our lovely agent, as a conversational AI that understands the cultural context of a child, that understands the age of a child, and in an age appropriate way articulates cultural differences, from why do they celebrate differently in December to why is the skin color different, all those things that kids ask, and that's okay that kids ask, but often adults don't have good answers to. So yeah, it's a contribution to making the world a better place. We are right now raising to actually bring this into the app stores, and much of what we're raising, Ty, is to get the level of security that we need in the platform to make it safe for children as well.
Any other unpopular opinions that you have?
You want to have my day, Sonya by day,
Yes,
unpopular
Sonia
Yeah.
opinion?
by D. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that in our day lives, our digital experience, commerce, technology, cloud, we have to acknowledge that the idea that Mark was 6 years ago at inception is no longer what the world needs today. And it has to evolve in people's minds, in the way vendors talk about it, in the way analysts look at it as well. And we have a lot of work to do to make a new version of Mark relevant for brands and buyers out there in the world.
Now, you were one of the original founders of MACH, so listeners may not know this, which is very exciting, which is why we're having this conversation today. Um, let's step back a little bit. So, I'd love to dig into that, but let's start with how it started. Could you tell us a little bit about how you guys decided to start it? What was that like at the very beginning?
Yeah, so I'll take you back to 2019. Actually, summer 2019. That's important to quickly remember that that was before COVID. And that was a time when Forrester Research said that 83% of the sea level globally wakes up thinking digital is a nice to have. As we all know, when COVID happened, a few companies had a really rough awakening. But it's important to know that the idea came before the catastrophe. Um, we were a few representatives from vendors and SIs who met in a pub in London in the summer of 2019. And a lot of good things happened in pubs in London, by the way, in history. And we were discussing a challenge that we saw where the big, at the time, monolithic vendors were very cleverly outplaying all the smaller best of breed vendors that we had. And we were at the time coming from the angle of commerce, content management, search, and front end as a service. And we realized that there were a few big brands that were looking for a way out of the replatforming cycle that people were still in back then, and we're looking for how do they get competitive, how can they as a digital organization react fast, stay agile, adaptive, flexible. And they were bombarded with this marketing bullshit by the big companies who, however, had all of the bits and pieces. And then individually a tiny SI with one vendor or with another vendor or yet another vendor would come in and only answer a piece of the actual need this brand had. And there was just no chance in hell for these brands to see a viable path to their dreams future state, which was to be agile and flexible, because the vendors were too fragmented, because they couldn't find a voice together to show, hey, composable, headless, API first is possible now, and it will bring you, dear brand, what you want. because we were just silenced by the Goliaths in the industry. That was very long-winded, Nat. But
No, I actually didn't know any of that.
oh,
Because I'm in the industry, but I had no idea. I don't know what the conversations were said, what was
yeah.
said at that London pub, but
I would say a lot of bad ideas have also happened in London pubs, right? So not just good ideas, but also bad ideas.
And was this a good one or a bad one?
I mean, I think it was a great idea. That's me.
Yeah. So we sat down, and at the time, I think the three people that were then most prominent in the inception of the alliance were Stephen Fokkema, who was at Commerce Tools at the time, Matt Bradber, who was at EPAM at the time and is now again, and then myself. And we started to draw the napkin. And we had this hippie idea. What if we could get competitors with the same mindset to come together and find one voice, right? So that the actual voice of composability is amplified because you have the different categories and the direct competition come together and give an alternative to the status quo. And then everybody was like, you guys are on crack. This is never going to work. Are you insane? We got a lot of that. It was a really, really, really rough first few months trying to find allies. Many people who now claim they invented the alliance had an opportunity to join, and we're like, yeah, no, we're not doing anything with our direct competitor, because we had and still today, the core mandate of the alliance is we do not give leads to members. This is going to be about thought leadership. This is going to be about helping
yeah.
the people who struggle to make a decision, because vendor marketing is all over the place, right? And when you have that perspective of we're here for the buyers, we're here for the market as a whole, you can't transfer leads. And then a lot of vendors were like, yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so what's headless? In a nutshell, for business people. In the old world of tech, when you would put something up on your website or on your mobile app, then the way it looked was very tightly fused with the content, the products that you actually saw. Headless has kind of pulled that apart and says, here's the way we're showing things, and here is what we're showing. And headless is the stupidest word that the industry has come up with, because it makes no sense whatsoever. But that's what it means. Why is that important? Because front-end technologies and devices are evolving so quickly. Who knows if it will be normal in half a year to look at things through your Oculus VR set, right? Some people have it, but it's not normal yet. You as a brand want to be able to super quickly jump on, lead that wave for your industry. And what you can't afford is that you will have to rebuild everything under the hood just to serve a new channel and a new medium. So headless is critical. If you have a system that's not headless yet, oh my goodness, please replace it. But that's all that it means. And people make all this magic about it. And sure, there's tons of APIs and REST and GraphQL and all of that stuff. But really, it just means what is shown is in a different logical component than how it is shown. Composable is much, much harder to define. And if you ask 5 industry experts, you probably get about 10 different explanations, right? So composability essentially is defined as I have software, and the software is packaged into subcomponents that all serve a specific business need that I have. So maybe managing my content, personalizing my content, having a commerce cart, having a commerce search, and those individual components. And you can mix and match, pick and choose what you need to assemble your ideal software solution out of these components. Now, where composability often goes wrong in the real world is 2 things. The first one is This modularity in the definition of a composable software means within the stack that a vendor offers. So many of the vendors that would not be MACH in that architectural definition could still be composable, but they could have no external ways to hook that in. So they might be composable, but not interoperable. I'll show you what that means in a second. And then the other misinterpretation is that you need a technical architect to compose. The original definition of composing was that it is a business person. So it might be a business architect. It's good if they have some technical knowledge, right? But someone from the side of the business, not a developer, right? Not a hardcore tech person, but someone with a business mindset that says, oh, now we need this, now we need that. Now, I wish, and this is one of my hopes for the future of the MACH Alliance in particular, that we can extend composability to include interoperability. So, because I knew you were going to ask something like this. What is this called in English? I have no idea. I don't even know what it's called in German. I only know what it's called in Dutch. You have these little, can you see this on the camera?
And let's describe to the listeners what we're looking at. So,
Yeah.
Oh, so I
Sonya's
have
just
this-
pulled out a prop.
So I
It
have
is
these
a jar of beads.
Right. And you can like put, I don't, what, do you guys know what these are called?
I have
So
no
you-
idea what it is
You
that
have
you're
to
doing.
show them to us.
So you have,
first.
you put these little beads onto some holder
Right.
thing.
And do you like melt them together? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah.
you iron them, right? So
Yeah.
I had this when I was a kid. My kids love it. This is composable, right?
Hey, hang on.
Because-
So, what is that thing called? I have no idea. So you've
I
got
have
like
no
a.
idea.
Yeah.
We're gonna look that up and put it in the notes.
It's like a circle with like little spikes in it, and the
Yeah, it's got
beads
little
fit on
pikes in it, and you put the
any-
beads on top,
Yeah.
right? And then some kids just enjoy doing this because it's super calming, and some
Yeah.
kids want it to be actually ironed, and then it all melts together, and you have little things. I also have a horse, right? And I have this, so you can just make amazing little things. Anyway,
Yeah,
this by definition is composable because I'm composing this.
Right.
Now,
Yeah, you almost make like little
this-
ornaments or something with that. Like that's kind of, yeah.
Right. Amazing, right? So this is composable too. Classic Lego stuff, right? I can put this around here. And by the way, my son made this. Isn't it gorgeous? Anyway, this is composable too. Now, the problem is, it is true that this is composable, and it's true that this is composable. There is no way that I can mix these. Like if I put these beads on here,
On the Lego, if you put the beads on the
Yeah.
Lego, they don't.
if I put the beads on a Lego, it's going to be a
Yeah.
mess.
right.
It's going to be a mess. And that's why we need interoperability standards. I don't like the word standards. It makes me feel like we have a clipboard, right? Rules and guidelines. Let's go Pirates of the Caribbean here.
Regulation and red tape.
You know, but we need to agree on patterns and protocols so that software in our space that is composable is also interoperable with other solutions, because only then do brands have the freedom to really mix and match and swap out if and when they need. I'm getting off my pedestal now.
Well, but it leads me to kind of the next question that I have about that. It helps to kind of define what that composability is to a point. And honestly, the props helped. Hopefully everyone was able to see that, or at least got something out of the description. But really what I want to know is, where is the state of composability today within the industry? Where are we at?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, all over the place, right? Because there's very different maturity levels of composable. Some are still struggling to get the old tech world and the new tech world really to work together well. We're seeing increasing frustration with the need for SIs to actually be the middleman and really provide the glue between all of the different systems that a brand chooses. And it's interesting because when we founded the MACH Alliance, the idea was to save brands from vendor lock-in and some brands have experienced SI login as a consequence, and that can provide not just
SI lock-in. Well, I hadn't even thought about that. Interesting.
yeah, it's a big challenge. And the as eyes on the MACH Alliance, they are very diligent about giving the IP of the glue back to the brands, but there is SIs out there that'll claim the IP, and then you're really stuck. It's not a good idea. But having said that, I do see a lot of vendors now bringing composing. Do I want to say middleware? Am I dating myself if I use the word middleware?
Well, it's not exactly middleware because
Yeah.
I know where you're going. You're going into the orchestration layer conversation.
Into the
Yeah.
orchestration layer. And there's a few vendors that are doing really interesting stuff who are very successfully now implementing AI driven interoperability. And now the interesting question will be which vendors are fastest so that their APIs are so well documented or self explanatory that the vendors are ready to cater to interoperability through AI. And that's going to be the next race. And also for the brands. Like that'll be the magic that can make composable feasible across the maturity stages in a few years to come. Right? We still have some hype cycle curves to go through on that side.
It's interesting because you're making me have a flashback to my old days at Salesforce where I don't know how many times I've asked SIs to build IP that they own.
Hmm.
Just sort of I didn't realize I was part of that SI lock-in
Well, we all
process.
were. And
Yeah.
sometimes you only see that after the fact. Like for
Yeah.
me, certainly there was a moment to I think about 2 years ago, where I was looking at the beast we created in a way and was thinking like, oh gosh, that was not the intention here. But things grow, things evolve, we learn. The important thing is to course correct and make sure we go back to serving the industry that we serve.
Well, I know you said you were gonna get off your pedestal, so I'm gonna ask you to get back on your soapbox, please.
Oh,
Um, but what do you think is the future? What do you think the future should be for the composable industry?
I'll tell you my dream scenario. Okay. So, my dream scenario is that I, as the responsible person for digital in a brand, I can go in and I have my marketplace of solutions. I tell that marketplace what my business problem is and what it is that I need to solve. And the marketplace helps me identify which component I need so that it's ideal for what I already have and want to keep and where I want to go in the future and the resources that I have to go there. And then I just say, yes, this is it. And it makes my business case, it sends it to my CFO. My CFO says, absolutely, Sonya, go do it. I press the button. Automagically, I have my one user interface across all the tools that I just created, and whatever agent I work with at the time can help me to drive this ship.
I mean, you're describing a world without sales teams, right? You're describing a world where we just go and we buy software online without having to go through an evaluation process, a negotiation process, and there's sort of a level of objectivity in how as opposed to being swayed by how good one vendor is at selling, you are actually understanding the technology and buying what you need,
Yeah.
only
So
what you need, right? Not everything, because that's how the package comes.
right. And thank you for bringing me back to reality. Of course, that's my utopia
I like
vision.
it. I like it.
But reality is we will always have the element of branding. I think another unpopular opinion that brands today don't want to have as much access and exposure to sales people as sales orgs think. I think also there we'll see more and more. And we're already seeing that today. I was just at an analyst event where a third of B2B buying decisions, software decisions, are already driven by ChatGPT.
Right. Yes. Sonya, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. That was a lot of unpopular opinions in the end, wasn't it?
I loved it. I love learning. I always learn something new from you.
Always, yeah.
Always.
Thank you too.
All right, and to everyone else, until next time.
That concludes another episode of The Commerce Order, powered by Kibo, where we explore the evolving landscape of commerce from cutting-edge AI and digital transformation to strategies for optimizing operations and enhancing the customer journey. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please take a moment to subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and share this podcast with your colleagues and friends.
We love hearing from our listeners. If you have a suggestion for a future guest or are interested in being a guest yourself, please reach out to us. To learn more about exciting upcoming Kibo features and announcements, visit our website at kibocommerce.com and follow us on our LinkedIn page by searching for Kibo Commerce. You can also find these links in the podcast notes. Tune in next week for a fresh new episode of The Commerce Order, powered by Kibo.